I made a picture called Going Home. A friend of mine was shot down in Vietnam, and we were raised together. He was a Navy pilot, and he was MIA for 30 years. So he told me before he went, he said, if anything happens to me, take care of my family. And when they bring anything back that they find of me, I want to be carried to the grave in a mule and a wagon, like they used to do it. I said, okay. So we were shooting a commercial for Clark Lifts and showing how they did stuff. And this man had a mule and a wagon. And I said, would you do me a favor? I had a casket. Anyway, we took that casket, put a flag over it, and put it in the back of the wagon. And I shot from the back of him and his family driving the mule with the casket in the back. It's called Going Home. That picture, I have given probably 20,000 of them to soldiers or families that's lost someone, and I don't charge veterans for it. I also sold them a bunch, but it's all over the world. I even had pilots say, make me a little one to put in the cockpit, but it's a touching picture. I'm proud of that picture. It's quiet, and I know I have a lot of friends here, and it doesn't get in my way because if I used to drive back and forth to Nashville, and a lot of times the artists I got to know, like Waylon and Dottie West and all these guys, they come down here and would make a picture because they like to get away from Nashville, you know, and all that. So it's not been a problem to me to go places. In my mind, I see the frame and how I want it and what looks neat. And I love nature, so I've done a lot of nature stuff, a lot of ocean things, and a lot of aerial photography. When we got there, it was so smoky, we couldn't shoot. There wasn't any video to shoot, just solid smoke. And so we decided we'd look for bodies, or look for maybe somebody who was still alive. As we left each day, they had pieces of paper with pictures, and as we left, they was holding them up, and it had things missing. I've lost my son, or my daughter, or my husband, or my wife, and please help, and all this. And just all the way up that boulevard. And I felt like it when we'd been there 12 hours a day, probably. But I told my buddy, I said, I feel like we shouldn't leave, you know, because those people are still, some of them may be alive and covered up, and it just bothers you. But that was really intense for me. I had nightmares for a long time, and before we left, they had a psychiatrist talk to us and, you know, to explain what was going to happen. Never, ever give up, and be willing to work, you know.